Good morning, everyone. It is 10 a.m., and I will call this Board of County Commissioners meeting to order. It is May 20th, 2025, and before we start with our salute to the flag, I just wanted to note some changes to the agenda because we are light on quorum, and so today, after item 4, we will do items 11 and 12, our public hearings, then we will do our block vote, then we will do our presentations, then we will do consent, then we will do item 10. So thank you everyone for your patience while we're wading through some changes in the agenda. And then I would love it if Pat Cashell could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, can we please have the roll call?
Certainly. Alexis Hill, Chair.
Here.
Jean Herman, Vice Chair, is absent. Commissioner Clark.
Present.
Commissioner Garcia is on the phone.
I'm here.
Commissioner Andriola.
Present.
Assistant County Manager Dave Solero.
Here.
Chief Deputy District Attorney Mike Large.
Present.
And I'm Jan Galasini, your County Clerk. Madam, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. We'll now move into public comment. Mr. Solero.
Item number 3 is public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. Unused time may not be allocated to other speakers, and the commission will hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the commission as a whole, and there will be virtual public comment taken when the facilities are available. A speaker's viewpoint will not be restricted. However, reasonable restrictions may be imposed upon the time, place, and manner of speech. Irrelevant statements, unduly repetitious statements, and personal attacks that would objectively antagonize or incite are other examples of speech that may be reasonably limited.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
First up, we have Tracy Thomas, followed by Terry Brooks. Thank you.
Oh, good morning. Revelation 18 teaches us, in the measure that she glorified herself and lived luxuriously, in the same measure give her torment and sorrow. Last week's presentation on proposed uses of the $6 million excess ARPA funds was a blatant demonstration of just how tone-deaf staff and this board are to the needs of this community. When every department is being directed to reduce their budgets, you are increasing funds to a non-essential department. How about vacating the money pit that we lease from the city of Reno and distribute staff to the other libraries instead? Further ignorance is displayed in wasting more money staffing another unsustainable money pit meant for a temporary situation. Sell the facility to a developer who can build workforce housing and/or mental health facility, which is the true solution for the majority of the guests. Let Reno PD return to giving bus tickets to return home and conducting civil protective custody for the rest. There are plenty of community-led solutions that have already proven effective. Taxpayers do not need or want to carry this on their backs. Highland Ranch Parkway is a county road that has been neglected for 10 plus years. Sorry, I forgot to put that on there. While only one of you might have an occasion, she's not even here, to travel this road, it does impact voters in 3 of your district. A very brief search found, in addition to the rollover yesterday, on May 15th, at 4:18 p.m., another rollover accident. On April 27th, a head-on collision killing 1. And June 21st and 23, a semi overturned and blocked the traffic. In April 22nd of 2014, 9 people were taken to the hospital. That's just a brief. I'm sure you can get more statistics from the Sheriff's Department that will give you even more. But recent media revealed it takes 45 to 55 minutes to travel the 2.3 miles on any weekday between 3 and 5 p.m. A maximum of 13 vehicles make it through the middle of the lane. Through the green light onto Pyramid with no explanation as to why the middle lane is blocked out. Right here. Oh wait, I'm sorry, right there. While the ultimate solution is an overpass with merged lanes, there are quick and easy options immediately to widen the road to 5 lanes up to the new 5 ridges. What have you done instead? Deputies are dispatched to issue citations to those squeezing around to make a right turn onto Pyramid. Way to go. That should help a lot with the rampant road rage. So how many more deaths do you need before you'll pay attention? There's no reason that this cannot be widened right here. There's constantly vendors and food trucks selling stuff there. That road can be widened and eliminate a lot of this aggravation.
Thank you.
Terry Brooks, followed by Amy Pulver.
Good morning. It's me, Terry Brooks, again. And today I'd like to address following the good example to mental health in the case of homelessness. Last time I was here, I spoke of a man who helped people with poor physical health. Today I'd like to speak of that same man helping people with poor mental health. He cared a lot about the health of all the people, as well as about the mental health of all of those people. He helped a Canaanite woman's daughter who was mentally ill. He helped a man who could not speak because he was mentally ill. He helped a young boy and a grown man who were mentally ill, and later helped another young boy and another young grown man who were mentally ill. He helped a mentally disturbed man who called himself Legion, and helped many other disturbed people all over that same region. There were many mentally ill, disturbed people who were brought by others to him, and this good man did his best to try to help all of them. In that day when people were stressed and severely depressed, most people saw such victims as being demon-possessed. And they considered such a demon as an evil spirit. Many would really fear it and wouldn't want to come near it. But this really good man had such a love for people that he would do anything to help heal such people. He seems to have started a movement by doing all he could to help those in need and showing us all what is good. When we see mentally ill people, sometimes we feel annoyed, and they seem to be the kind of people that we may try to avoid. But if we try to help them, it might be a way to show them that we care, and they might wind up okay. I'd like to thank you all for listening to me. I hope you're not annoyed, and I hope I'm not someone that you might want to avoid.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Amy Pulver, followed by Travis Sandifer.
Hi, good morning. My name is Amy Pulver. I've corresponded with each of you over the past several weeks, and I very much appreciate those of you who took time to respond. I've sat through library board meetings since November, and I can attest to the former director's explanations of the library budget and the potential impact the loss of expansion funding might mean. He responded clearly to board members' questions on numerous occasions, including when they asked him for possible implications of the loss of the expansion funding. Indeed, many other citizens who attended these board meetings understood the budget and have told you so here in public comment over the past weeks. We all understood the sources of funding and the implications of losing a funding source that paid salaries of 23 staff members and provided funding for library resources such as books, as well as funding for capital expansion and repairs. It is unclear to me how the library board did not understand, or why the board chair came before this body to ask for more time to understand. It's plain arithmetic. Today, I'm here to urge you to support the staff recommendation for the FY 2026 library budget. $12.5 million from the general fund, same as last year. Allocation of the approximately estimated $3.5 million from the expansion fund that remains, and an additional $1.3 million from the general fund. As CFO Yagubin has reported, this funding will make the library's FY 2026 budget funding level with its funding in 2025. The library should be no different from other county departments, all of which are receiving level funding in the staff recommendation, except for the $5 million in additional funding for roads and $1 million more for Northern Nevada Public Health. The citizens of Washoe County and the librarians should not suffer loss of services in FY 2026 because the Board of Trustees failed to do its job. We can all recognize the reality that faces Washoe County in the coming years, and we can understand the necessity of increasing revenues and making hard but precise cuts to expenses. But singling out one department is inherently unfair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Travis Sandifer, followed by DeAndre Burleson.
Good morning, Commissioners. Travis Sandifer, representing Volunteers of America. I'm the Regional Vice President. As a resident of Washoe County, I have to tell you, I am thankful and proud of this community. Our community has had the courage to face a generational crisis around homelessness when others have not. You have had the courage to engage and debate, and thank you for that courage. Through my role, I visit other communities, and some of them have just given up. Others have given way to apathy, but this community has answered the call. You have run towards the challenges when others have run away or looked away, and we must keep going. So thank you for your courage. If you vote to approve VOA's contract as the operator of our place, we will partner alongside you to face whatever challenges come our way. And we will always keep the clients as our highest priority during the transition and even beyond. We are committed towards our journey towards operational excellence. The seriousness of this work demands that of us. We must continue to get better through continuous improvement, but we will always do this with compassion and love. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
DeAndre Burleson, followed by Patrick Cashel.
Washoe County, in compliance with the Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Public comment is welcome during public comment periods and is limited to 3 minutes per person per comment period. During the general public comment periods at the beginning and at the end of the meeting, speakers may address any matter either on or off the agenda. Members of the public may also submit comments by mail, 1001 East 9th Street, by e-comment. The first thing I want to address is I received a phone call from the Reno Housing Authority employee Melinda on Wednesday at 4:06 p.m. Client number T0963103. She called me and told me that my file was going to be completed and she's going to forward it over to her manager. And did I have any other changes? Blase, blase. So I think that's progress and that's good news. These are the attachments that are associated with that particular situation, which are the 2 documents right here. Okay, and the next ones are the correspondence I received. This is the bill from the Motel 6 across the street. These are the monthly bills that I have, the Metro PCS bill and the RTC bill that I received, that I pay for. I have an active going court case with municipal court in regards to me being homeless and laying on the streets, and that is the case summary in regards to that. I have a case manager that I will receive. I have a court date on the 21st and have a case manager in regards I had an incident with the Washoe County Public Health Department, and these are the, I guess, reminder cards in regards to that as well. I was, I guess, in essence, denied services based on insurance or medical information. This is the initial registry of the.
Thank you, Mr. Burleson, and congratulations on getting the housing on track. That's great.
Patrick Cashel, followed by Trista Gomez.
Thank you.
Good morning. Is it morning still? County Commission. My name is Pat Cashel, and I'm here to speak in favor of Volunteers of America becoming the new operators of our place. I'm a little biased. I was the former executive director of Volunteers of America for 10 years, and I know personally and firsthand the type of work that they do at the shelters. It's amazing. So, and not to take away from the work that RISE has done. I think we're all here serving for the right reasons. And so, and I have to give credit to RISE for what they've done and what they were handed when they first took over our place. You know, it's very similar to the situation when I was handed the CARES campus, and it was a 46,000 square foot building with no beds. And so the foundation that RISE has laid and is remarkable, and it will allow the Volunteers of America to be successful. So I'm in total favor of it. I love Volunteers of America. They gave me an opportunity nearly 15 years ago that I'm not even sure McDonald's would have given me that opportunity. So they've touched my life, and I'm forever grateful for Volunteers of America. So I'm extremely happy and proud of the work they do and the work that I got to do while I was there. And the family shelter is just an amazing part of our community and the people that seek services there. And I just think back of the memories, and one of the best memories I ever had was when a lot of Leo McFadden, the former CEO of Volunteers of America, thought I was crazy. I wanted to take 100 of the kids and their families to Six Flags, and he let me do it. And it was just such a special day. And that's the types of things that Volunteers of America does for their clients. And so 110% support the transition, and looking forward to see the remarkable work that they'll be allowed to do for our place. So thank you.
Thank you.
Trista Gomez, followed by Emily Elise.
Trista Gomez, and I am here ongoing because of the budget. Next year, you guys are going to have to figure out how to get $5 million more into the library budget. I'm an advocate for the library, I'm a big supporter of the library, but $5 million more next year, because you guys aren't going to have the expansion fund. And when I've been to every meeting, I've been to every presentation, I think, except for one, and it looks like what we're doing. And I've sent an email to try to get clarification, but it looks like what we're doing is we're going to use the contingency fund that was recommended to not be used. We're going to use that fund to shore up extra money for the budget, because you guys have raised costs to such a degree that the county doesn't have revenue for it, even though the county has had record revenue over the years. And we don't have a way to sustain that budget. And so now, even though I've heard several times kind of misleading things, well, we're not, the board's not trying to raise any revenue, the board's not trying to raise any taxes, but we've heard Ms. Hill say that there could be an opportunity for sales tax. So that's a raise in revenue. That's a burden, and another burden to taxpayers. We've also know that AJR 1 is specifically there so that it can provide more money to to these jurisdictions, and it's going to put an additional burden on already incredibly burdened local buyers, older buyers, young buyers, buyers who are local, buyers who want to stay in this community. And you guys are going to pass this budget, and it looks a lot different than it did the first time, and it looks a lot more, it looks nicer. Some things have gotten hidden or taken away. I can't really make sense of it. I'm trying to make sense of it. But you guys have to do this ongoing. Ongoing, you have to figure out how to get this revenue. Ongoing, you're hurting people. Ongoing, you're making it harder for locals to stay here. Ongoing, you're creating more of a burden on local families, on old families, on young families. Ongoing. And that's what you're doing by saying, oh, we just need to raise revenue. We're just going to keep paying, what I think it's like it's less than 0.56% of the people in this county get 80% of the revenue because when you guys raised everybody's wages and PERS, there was no way to sustain that. And so I'll be here for a while, I'll probably comment another time, but I'm asking you to consider the locals in this community. I'm asking you to do your fiduciary, responsible duty and take care of the people in this community that voted for you to take care of them and to vote on their behalf.
Emily Elise, followed by Siglend McTee.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Emily Elise, but I go by Emile. I am here to express my deep concern for the culture of hostility County Manager Brown has facilitated during his tenure here, with a long list of qualified public servants who report having been forced out of their positions, myself included. I worked for the county's Housing and Homeless Services Division as a homeless service analyst under Coordinator Katrina Peters and Division Director Dana Searcy from 2022 to 2024, where I led both homelessness point in time counts for 2 consecutive years and was responsible for developing much of the Northern Nevada Continuum of Care's operating policies. I have managed public funding for nonprofit housing providers and workforce development agencies worth several $1 million per year and continue to do so. I have a master's degree from San Francisco State in public administration, lived experience, and over a decade of community organizing experience in the Bay Area. Commissioners, you may recall a statement I shared with you about this time last year, detailing the bullying and harassment I experienced under Katrina Peters, with the full knowledge of Dana Searcy, HSA Director Ryan Gustafson, and Washoe County HR. County staff, under Brown's leadership, would rather push out qualified talent than hold its underqualified and democracy-stifling leaders accountable. As a recently reestablished Washoe County resident, and with this experience in hand, I ask that you block HSA's recommendation to replace RISE with VOA as the operator for the Our Place shelter. RISE, a local nonprofit with deep roots in our community, has been managing Our Place since its inception in 2020. Their approach, grounded in lived experience and understanding of the challenges faced by the homeless population, has been instrumental in providing compassionate and effective services in the region. Their commitment to dignity, equity, and community engagement has set a standard for homelessness services in the region, and it does differ than what's happening at CARES Campus. The proposal to replace RISE with VOA at an increased cost of $1.2 million raises several concerns. Firstly, the financial implications are significant, especially in the midst of a budget shortfall where there is a hiring freeze set and no additional funds, as you're aware, being allocated for commissioners. Without clear evidence of improved outcomes, this move would be fiscally irresponsible. Secondly, the process leading to this recommendation lacks transparency. Given Mrs. Peters and Mrs. Searcy's ongoing efforts to acquire direct oversight over the Our Place campus, which I have seen firsthand, and their apparent personal interest in continuing to collect their competitive salaries while lacking the appropriate credentials to do so, is very clear, and it needs to be.
Thank you.
Siglend McTeague, followed by Lynn Armone.
Good morning, Chair Hill, Commissioners. I really want to take this opportunity to thank personally Commissioner Andriola for her participation in our 20th birthday party out at the Spanish Springs Library. She gave a very uplifting speech about how our library is an investment in the community. We had a huge crowd, all walks of life. I may have heard this before, but she explained about the architecture of the building and its indigenous roots that, I think it was Wikiup is the term. And we were honoring the fact the Sarah Winnemucca plaque was unveiled, and I really thank her for honoring the fact that we all reside on sacred ancestral land of our three beloved tribes, the Washoe, Paiute, and Shoshone. Yeah, thank you so much for being there. It was really a great, great celebration. I didn't stay for the cake. We had 5 cakes. I don't know enough about the details, but I too have, in light of the budget shortfalls and all of the contentiousness that we've seen in the last 6 months or so, I too have concerns about awarding a contract that is $1.2 million over another contract, and the people have been running that since 2020. But again, I would just like clarification. First of all, is that true? And second of all, I know that there are other considerations when procurement is looking at contracts, but I'd really like some transparency around that, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lynn Amon, followed by, and then I have emails to place on the record.
Good morning. I am here as an individual who has spent the last 4 years volunteering at our place. Once a week, every Tuesday, I'm going there right after I leave here at lunch service, and I'm also part of a community engagement team of volunteers that regularly put on events for the guests at our place twice a month on Saturday evenings, and children's parties once a month. I was really disheartened to hear that RISE was not going to be awarded the contract for the next period of time. And then when, as previous speakers have spoken to the lack of transparency about the proposals and also the possibly higher amount being awarded to VOA, it made me come out of my comfort zone, come here, because I really wanted to speak to my experience at RISE as a volunteer, as an individual, no ties to anything, any other group. It's been uniformly positive. I am so impressed by the staff there, by their commitment to the guests. Granted, I have no experience with the other organization, but RISE has, I chose to volunteer there after I retired, and I don't regret it a bit. It's been a wonderful way to spend my time, and the members of staff that volunteer their own time on a Saturday evening to come and offer, we've had dance parties and karaoke nights and bingo every month. It's just something that they've decided to do, and volunteers have supported it, and it's been a wonderful experience for all involved. So I'm just here to give a little endorsement and some positive feedback about RISE. Thanks.
Thank you.
Carol Cook.
Good morning to you all. I'm Carol Cook. I'm here to urge you to support the staff report on the library. I can't imagine a better use of the monies available. Our libraries are extremely important, and I amplify everything that Ms. Pulver has said. She made a great explanation of the history and all of the problems at the library board. So I encourage you to support the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you.
had emails to place on the record, and I'm waiting to see if this gentleman in the back of the room would like to speak. It's okay.
Okay.
That's everybody that signed in.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now move into item 4. Mr. Solero.
Item number 4, Commissioners, County Managers' announcements, reports, and updates to include boards and commission updates, requests for information, or topics for future agendas, and I don't have anything for you this morning.
Okay. Well, Commissioner Andriola.
Madam Chair, I'd like to step down for a moment
Yes.
and offer a little surprise.
Yes. And if Ms. Canderas can actually come to the podium as part of this. We heard you're retiring, Ms. Canderas, and we didn't want you to escape the Board of County Commissioners without us saying thank you to your service to Washoe County. It's been a joy to work with you, and we heard you like sunflowers.
You should take a picture.
Yeah, take a picture. There you go.
So,
And Commissioner Andriola has something to say.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may. This is a surprise, intentional, and we all are a part of this surprise. We've been really blessed to have you bake cookies. We're expecting Mr. Large to carry on that tradition.
Yeah, he's going to be bringing cookies every meeting for sure.
So I'm hoping that you can enjoy the cookies that I did not bake, but enjoy them with all of our heart. And we are going to miss you terribly. I'd like to thank your husband for being a part of the culprit with the sunflowers. So if you think I just did that without a little research, which I pride myself on doing research, and yes, thank you so much for the sunflower surprise. Here's a card from all of us. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Canderas, for your service. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I really appreciate that. I'm just so, I'm actually surprised. And you did get the flowers right, so thank you. What I did want to say is it has been an honor of my career to serve for this board. I have learned so much working with you, and I have I will take very fond memories back with me. I would like to say to the chair that I think watching you from when you first started to now, you've really come into your own as far as knowledge about the county and about the meeting process. And to Commissioner Andriola, I think also since you've been elected, it's been great to see you just learning everything you can about the county. And to Commissioner Clark, I give you a special thanks because you've kept me on my toes, and I have enjoyed sometimes our, back and forths, and I always appreciate that you're looking at different aspects of things and asking some of the tough questions that aren't always asked. And so, and again, to everybody, to Jan and Kathy, and of course Mike, and of course Dave, I really appreciate it. I'm going to head out and hopefully into the sunset. I think I have one more party June 2nd, so if you're able to come over to our office, I would really appreciate that, and thank you so much.
Thank you for your service, and we're going to do a quick picture, so we'll take a tiny break, and then we'll come back up here. So, quick break.
I thought there was only one cookie in here. There's like 20 cookies in here.
Well, that was special, and thank you, Commissioner Andriola, for organizing that. And I know Commissioner Garcia also got the card, so thank you. Commissioner Andriola, do you have any other commissioner comments?
Oh, yes, I do. Thank you. I was so caught up in all of that. So thank you for the opportunity to share. On July 22nd, from 5:30 to 7, I believe it's here in the chambers, will be the Budget 101 for the Washoe checkbook. So I just wanted to make sure and recognize all the staff for their hard work in putting this together. And we have a date, a time, and a place. So everyone will be notified. Everyone is welcome. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knew. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a few items I'd like to talk about. I've been the past week or so working on continuous education classes for a license that I hold. And one of the topics were how to prevent lawsuits and how to prevent problems, legal problems, and financial problems when someone sues you. And lo and behold, it was all focused about radon and residential housing. And so I'll remind you that I've asked numerous questions about radon in county facilities, the library building, the courthouse. You know, we've got, I met with some judges there a week ago about the situation. You know, in the real world, you've got to disclose radon as evidence. You need to test for it. You need to make sure everybody's aware of it. And as I look at the courthouse, which is full of attorneys and judges and paralegals and law clerks and folks that, you know, that's what they deal with on a regular basis. I'm just hoping that the county does the right thing over there and starts monitoring the radon and starts making sure that the radon has been cleared out of there, hopefully. I mean, it's an odorless, tasteless gas. We don't know if it's present or not present. The judges I talked to said working over there is like the equivalent of getting 200 chest x-rays every year. I don't know if that was per day or per week or per the year, but those are things that we need to be looking at and disclose to all of our employees and the public and the sheriff's officers and everybody else that's working in that court about the radon that we may have there and what are we doing to fix it and how are we monitoring that. If there ever is a lawsuit, we need to have some documented records of what the radon readings were on a daily basis and keep a logbook of that. I had a nearly impossible time getting answers. It takes a while to get those answers, but believe me, if there's a lawsuit about radon, we'll have to produce records. So the county should be keeping those records available. Next, I had some public commenters talking about the budget and the library board, and God, I hope we can put this behind us soon. I'd like to get a comment from Mr. Solero, the acting county manager, about what he has proposed as far as an efficiency expert. When I use the word budget, everybody runs right to the word of budget and wants to look at numbers on a piece of paper. I guess I should have been looking at using the word business plan. And I understand that the county is in the process or has hired or will be hiring an efficiency expert to look at the complete operation, if I'm not mistaken, of the library to find out if there's some cost savings and better ways and better ways to do things. I don't think that's been done in the last 10 or 11 years, if ever. And Mr. Solero, could you share with us exactly what you're proposing with the chair of the library board, please?
Sure. For the record, Dave Solero, Assistant County Manager. Tomorrow night on the agenda for the Library Board of Trustees, there's an item that the chair of that board and I have spoken about to see if the entire board is willing to embark upon a study of the operations of the library, what it really takes to, staff full branches of the library, best practices for hours of operation, those types of things. So asking the Library Board of Trustees for their permission, essentially, to embark upon that study to assist them in, directing the staff of the library on best practices associated with library operations.
And has the county ever done that with the library department? Have we ever had an efficiency expert look at each and every operation to see if there's a better way to do things there?
We've certainly done master planning, which has given us guidance on numbers of facilities, types of facilities, general operational understanding of hours. But as far as I'm aware, and this could have happened, again, the Library Board of Trustees has one employee, which is the library director. In the past, they may have directed the library director to do something similar. I'm not aware of that, but it certainly could have happened. We're in a position right now where we don't have the library director, we have an acting director, but I thought it might be helpful for the Library Board of Trustees to have a little bit of third-party assistance through this.
Sure. So your personal knowledge is this hasn't been done before. We haven't had an outside, the proposal to bring somebody in from outside and an independent efficiency expert to look at the operation and give us some recommendations that may or may not help with the way the library is run. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. All right, want to get that on the record for everybody who keeps talking about the budget. This is a business plan. This is talking about how we can figure out how to use the funds we have in the best responsible way versus just reading a budget. So that was what I was talking about, and I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but as I've talked to the chair of the library, that was my understanding of her feeling as well. So thank you for that, Mr. Solero. Next, there's been several comments from the public about taking over the VOA, taking it over from RISE, and the cost implications. Again, we're in a constricted budget situation. The county is financially strapped, and if this will impact the budget by $1.2 million. All we need to do is do that same kind of illogical move, 10, 12, 15, 20 times a year, and the next thing you know, we're $20 million upside down. So I think it's something that we need to be taking a look at, fiscally responsible, and looking at that on what will come up here today. We had several public commenters asking about that as well. Our place versus VOA and the extra cost. I think that Emily Elise had some very good points, and I agree with her comments, and I think her perspective of having the lived experience, her master's degree, and her interaction with this, I think we could consider her a subject matter expert far more than I consider myself a subject matter expert. So because I'm not, and I don't think a lot of folks around here are, and I think when we get good public comments like that, we need to really listen to somebody who's trying to do the right thing and enlighten us as elected officials. So thank you for your comments. And I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Andriola, anything else? Okay. Well, we will now... Oh, Commissioner Garcia, thank you for reminding me. Commissioner Garcia, do you have any commissioner comments?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, we are going to now move to our public hearings. We'll open up item 11. Mr. Solero.
All right, your item number 11 is a public hearing, discussion, and possible action on the Washoe County tentative budget for fiscal year 2026, which is July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026, pursuant to NRS 354.596, as well as possible changes to the tentative budget and adoption of it as the final budget for fiscal year 2026, pursuant to NRS 354.598. An estimated appropriation of $1,075,989,019. The proposed budget incorporates board priorities of funding for existing contractual obligations, supplies, utilities, personnel costs, capital improvements, and operations, and maintaining the county's assets and infrastructure needs. As you're all aware, the purpose of this item is to conduct a hearing on the tentative budget for fiscal year 26, consider the approval of the final budget for 2026, which incorporates the county changes from the county manager's recommendation presented to you all on April 15th. The county manager and the executive team, as well as budget and finance, have done quite a bit of work, and we really appreciate the feedback that we've received from the board from that manager's recommendation. I think we've made some really good changes at your suggestion. So with that, I'd like to bring down budget manager Lori Cook, and I believe Abby Yakobin is going to assist as well. And we will have the presentation on the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Solera. Welcome.
Good morning. For the record, Lori Cook, Washoe County Budget Manager. So good morning. Nice to see you again. I will wait for the presentation to queue up.
Oh, that's the wrong one. We are on item number 11. So there it is.
Go. Excellent. Okay, so once again, Lori Cook, Washoe County Budget Manager. For the record. As Assistant County Manager Solero mentioned, this is our public hearing on our tentative potential adoption of final budget. This is pursuant to statute, so the public hearings on the tentative, we have to wait until that's certified by taxation, and that is certified by the State Department of Taxation. And then obviously we'll discuss or go over any changes between that recommended, which reflects our tentative budget, and the final. I will tell you, based on direction and conversation last week, there are no changes between what we saw last week and what we're seeing here, but certainly a little more detail. So this is obviously a very high-level overview of the process, but the county adopts an annual budget. So we have a one-year budget. The state has a two-year budget. We have a one-year budget. I've looked, I do not know the reason for that, but I'm sure there is a reason. I don't know what it is, have not been able to figure it out. Our fiscal year follows the same as the state fiscal year. It does not follow the same as like the federal fiscal year, so it's July 1 through June 30th. All budgets must be prepared and submitted in the manner and on the current year forms prescribed by the Department of Taxation. So when you see what we call our state doc or our budget document, that is as prescribed by the Department of Taxation. So we submit with the categories and the functions and all of that as prescribed, and that's what they look at to certify. Once adopted, the budget can only be adjusted pursuant to various revised statutes or administrative code requirements. And last week, CFO Yakobin talked about augmentations, contingency, those types of changes. But they are legal changes. We can't just increase the budget. And we also cannot legally decrease the budget. That's called a de-augmentation, and so we can't do that either. We cannot spend it. We just can't reduce the budget. So the overall budget, as is best practice, right? We start with strategic planning. When we move forward with priorities and having conversations with department heads and elected officials, we, obviously go off of what we have from the strategic planning, strategic focus direction from the board. These remain the strategic focus areas following the January 2025 strategic workshop meeting. So what are some of the highlights when we look at all of our funds, right? So we have 23 governmental funds and 6 proprietary funds. No net new positions. You'll see when we get later into the slides what some of those net changes are, but no net new positions. Reclassifications and cost increases are not recommended, so we will be working with departments to find those offsets. So it's like a contingent or pending if we don't have those already. Budgeting general fund salary savings across all departments at 3%. That actually is, I don't know that the 3% is a best practice. Budgeting the salary savings is, and there are certain entities that take that off the top, and then in go through various process of their own budget process. So it's not unreasonable or out of the realm. And it's also in alignment with what we see naturally occurring with turnover. The library budget will be flat. So again, hearkening to last week, what does that mean? That means there's no reductions being pushed out. There's no expansions or above base being approved. So the remaining library expansion fund balance will be spent first. So it will be priority to spend those funds first. We will know exactly from a financial perspective what's in that as we close out the year. So probably close to, I'll say September, as we get all of the year end closed out and we know where we land. The increased general fund support is offset with that reallocation of the expansion fund tax, which was 2 cents, just as a reminder. And then, of course, Library Board of Trustees and BCC to work together to provide an updated service delivery model and financial needs. This is part of, or dovetails nicely into what Commissioner Clark asked about and what Assistant County Manager Solero talked about with the study and third party. The increase of general fund transfer to the Northern Nevada Public Health, or the Health District, as it's called in our financials, the $1 million. And then the ARPA-funded positions funded with ARPA interest, but they'll live, so the organizational hierarchy will be in the general fund. So we're still using ARPA to pay for ARPA, but we're reflecting it in the general fund. With, well, we'll talk about that on the next slide. So these are all funds. There are, as we talked about last week, it's about $11 million or 1.2% variance between the tentative recommend and the final. The ARPA positions we just talked about a little bit, the reallocation of the library department, that budget that we talked about living in the general fund, it's still in the general fund, but it's outside of the library department. So it would be accessed if needed, upon approval by the Board of Trustees. And so that's going to be more of our process going forward is that conversation and those ongoing conversations with the Board of Trustees. The special district funds increase back to their prior level, which was the $100,000 per district, and then the pooled interest increase based on anticipated cash balances. Within special revenue funds, the increase is approximately $5 million. That reflects the transfer of the ARPA interest into the general fund, so it's being front-funded, front-loaded, if you will, being transferred over in fiscal year 26. Then within the capital improvement fund, there's a net increase of $4.6 million, and that's routine. As we start closing out the year, we find out, we get more information on where projects are in status and where we think they're going to be, and how we account for those as part of, oh, well, this project is not as far along as we initially thought, so now we need to roll some of that budget into the following year. So they're not budget increases, we're just accounting for it after July 1st rather than before July 1st. So when we look at all funds, I was doing a little research this morning because when people ask, we know how many departments we have, we know how many funds we have, but there's a lot that's underneath that, right? So you can have a department with one, we call them cost centers, but one area where everything lives. Public defender is a good example of that. We have their departments where there are multiple places that positions and expenditures and budget lives. An example of that would be in the general fund, it would be like the DA's office, right? So they have civil, they have criminal, they have child welfare, they have family support, so they have different divisions. And I was looking, and those divisions are usually reflected in what we call cost centers, and we have over 1,600 of those. So when we're building the budget, we're looking at, we have to look at all of that departments. We don't do it on our own. And then within those cost centers divisions, we have the accounts that then you see rolled up in this budget. So we see all the accounts, the individual line items, if you will, that makes up salaries and wages, all the line items that make up employee benefits, right? It's not just one big line item. And for those, there are almost 1,900 of those. So just to provide a little bit of perspective of when you see, right, this document, that's this when it's printed. It's probably like this if it was printed out in the specific areas. So we roll it up, we do it the way that we submit it the way that we're required to submit it for taxation. And I think the transparent Washoe, is that what we've called it? Washoe checkbook, I can't remember the final name. And we'll show that, right? So if you look at professional services, if you look at software maintenance, you're gonna see all of those different, what we call journal ledger or general ledger accounts in there. So that's just to kind of, this is very high level. And then the next level down would be our budget, our state doc. But then within our financial system, right, we have much more discrete tracking and budgeting. So our total final recommend is the $1,075,989,019. Those total appropriations, those include contingency in the general fund is the only contingency, and transfers out. So, but if we look at actual just expenditures without transfers out, that total organizational budget is that $932 million at the bottom of that, or $933 million if you round it up at the bottom slide. And we can see the general fund, again, is 51%. So if you take all the other funds, put them together, the general fund is still larger. And that has been true for us since I've been here, so over 20 years. So when we look at all funds, what does that mean? Well, these are the governmental funds. So this is right part of those building blocks that lead up to those total appropriations. And so the largest governmental fund we have is the general fund. But then we have health. We call it the health fund. That's Northern Nevada Public Health. And right, so the list goes on. So we have, and this is split between two because it's too small if you try to shove it all on one page. And we get down into all the way through our capital and then to our debt funds. So we see that we've got, right, salaries, wages, employee benefits, services, and supplies. So within the governmental funds, like all funds, when we have total appropriations, that includes those contingencies and operating transfers out. Without those expenditures or appropriations are $793 million. Proprietary funds, non-expendable trust funds. We don't have any non-expendable trust funds that we budget. So these are all proprietary funds, and these show the operating and non-operating expenditures, operating transfers out, and total appropriations. The largest by far, well, I don't say by far, it used to be, a lot of times it can be the utilities fund. We'll have some carry forward with them, and then we have health benefits. So the governmental funds, so they all report the same way. So proprietary funds report more like private business, earnings before interest and taxes, net income, net position. The governmental funds, we report based on fund balance. So you have opening fund balance, sources, uses, ending fund balance. So when we look at the governmental funds, we can see the functions that the governmental funds support. It shouldn't be a surprise, but the largest amount, dollar figure, percentage is public safety. Public safety is not just the sheriff's office, but the sheriff's office is a large portion of public safety. But public safety includes, well, there's a list, but medical examiner, juvenile services, Department of Alternative Sentencing, there's other departments in there as well. So we see public safety, welfare, and then judicial as the top three. So those same governmental funds that were by function, this is how they are delineated by department. So we can see the general fund, or the general government, function, all those departments, the judicial and public safety. And these are not in here in a particular order. This is how they fit best on the slide, I'll be honest. Some charts are larger and more cumbersome than others. We have public works, health and sanitation, welfare, then debt, culture and recreation, which includes both. We have the library, we have regional parks, and then also the parks fund, capital fund. Then we have community support and contingency. So that is where those total appropriations at $935 million for governmental funds. So, the reason I pause a little bit on utilities is utilities can have as a proprietary fund, as an enterprise fund. It can have years where it's got a really large budget, so that like we've been doing the South Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility work over the past few years. They can have some very large capital projects, and then they can have some not as large years. So going into next year, it's not as large year. And then just as a reminder for internal service funds, health benefits, that's the health benefits fund for Washoe County employees and retirees. So it's not to be confused with the health district or the health fund. Risk management obviously is our risk management, and then equipment services is almost exclusively fleet. So how we replace our fleet through replacement and gathering those funds and then replacing fleet. So that's everything from sheriff to roads to departmental, say, vehicles for CPS workers, those types of things. Those go through that equipment services fund. So as we've discussed, personnel is our largest expenditure. This chart, I've done it every 2 years because when you do it every year, they're really, really tiny. It's hard to see. But when we look at our highest, which was our pre-recession level of 2008, fiscal year 2008, total FTEs were almost 3,200, so 3,179. When we look at the recommended budget for 26 is 3,172. So what we've seen when we look in terms of population is we've seen a 25.6% increase in population. We've seen the number of our employees basically flat. It's a reduction of 0.2%, but we'll call that flat. The employee per capita, so the FTEs per 1,000 has gone down. So it was at 7.8, now we're at 6.2. The other measure is one that I like to add because it's not just per capita, it's kind of like, well, how many people can I serve or do I serve as an average on total? And that has obviously gone up, so it goes the other way, from 128.67 to 161.99. So it's not, though that has been able to happen, right? And at the same time, we've had expanded services of various natures. And the way that we can accomplish that is through what we've been able to implement through innovation technology, looking at workflow, those types of things. And I will say, based on my knowledge, my experience, I was in department land, so I was on the department side. It's something that they look at, it's something that we look at, it's something we consider. Do we need to keep doing it this way? Do we just, not just moving forward the same way that we've always done it? I think that's something we always need to examine, we always need to look at. But I think that when we look at this chart, we can see, well, there's no way we could have had that kind of an increase in population and still been able to maintain and or expand service with technically less employees unless we've been able to identify and implement some of those changes. So as the largest and probably gets most of the headlines, which I don't know if it's fair, but that's what it is the general fund budget. So we're looking at general fund sources, which includes transfers in, which for this year, the notable large transfer in is the ARPA interest for those positions, the ARPA positions, as well as we have our property tax at 52% and consolidated tax at 32%. I will let you know we've gotten a fairly recent update on C-Tax related to the change, the financial system change at the Department of Taxation. We do have taxable sales data by the individual codes. I have not, in the last couple of days, I haven't had time to do analysis on it. But they have made it available to us in Excel, which we haven't had for forever. So that's exciting because it makes our analysis much faster and more efficient because I don't have to type everything in. So we'll be able to look at those codes and see, okay, well, what are we seeing, right? Is it retail, drinking and eating establishments? Is it, what's driving some of these changes? We are still down about 3% when we look at our actual distributions compared to prior year, but some of that could be some outstanding items that taxation is still working on. We don't know. We do anticipate, based on some follow-up discussions that one of our colleagues had with the Department of Taxation, to actually have 12 distributions for this fiscal year that we're ending on June 30th, 2025. We just don't know, is the last distribution going to reflect a full entire month or not? And they're changing their methodology, so we're working with our auditors on how we handle that in the financials.
Do they do zip code by any chance, or is it just category? Okay.
That's category. Because my understanding is when vendors submit, right, their sales and taxable sales information to the state, they kind of, if it's in Washoe County, it's in Washoe County.
Okay.
But perhaps this is something, is an enhancement or something that they'll be able to provide in the future. So we get that question a lot because it's, especially when we talk about communities like Incline, what does that look like when we have this big surge of people that are up in Incline, like during the summer or over the winter or whenever they are, and the data is not available? I don't know if it will be, but we'll keep that top of mind when we're working with taxation. So we have obviously our sources at 546.9 million. We have uses at the 549.3 million, which when we look at the next page, that's the deficit, right? That's what we're looking at. And again, we have benefits, we have salaries and wages, we have services and supplies, and transfers out. And I think it's been discussed, but it's good, I think, as a reminder when we're looking at structural deficits, forecasts, what does this look like? It's not insignificant. Service and supplies is $92.5 million. That is not insignificant. But as a portion of the budget, it's small. It's not even a quarter. So when we're looking at things that we have to do or measures we might have to take, we just need to keep kind of those figures in mind of knowing, I don't want to say bang for the buck, that's probably not the right term, but what type of changes or what things we need to look at when we're looking at the structural situation, the structural deficit. So the general fund budget, this is the sources and uses. So the sources are on the left, uses are on the right. Highlighted those things that had the material or significant change between the tentative and the final. So we can see under miscellaneous, that's the interest where we account for that change in the interest. The sources in or transfers in, that's the ARPA, that's one time. And then we look at salaries, wages, and benefits, that reflects those ARPA positions coming over, right, that are offset. And then the rest of it is really just it's more true up and things that we account for or reallocation that happened between April and May. So when we look at the deficit, yes, the deficit has reduced from this 8.27 to 2.5, 2.46. The majority of that, right, is that offset of that transfer in. Just to be clear. So here is the updated fiscal or 5-year forecast. Did not go to 2031 because we see, right, some issues in 29 and 30 that we, I think we've all heard about. So we see the estimate for 25, the use of fund balance in 26, which recommend or reflects the final recommend, and the forecast in the outer years. Now, the forecast does not reflect any permanent austerity measures. So it doesn't have permanent hiring freezes. It doesn't reflect reducing by X positions per year. It does reflect 3% annual salary savings every year, but also reflects what we know based on collective bargaining agreements that go through 2028, and the weighted number of personnel that are at the max or those that might go through the merit range. So that's the kind of the personnel in a nutshell. There's no additional personnel. There's no additional above base. Those are what we would call weaknesses or soft spots in the forecast. We also have the transfers. So there's a list. So the library expansion fund positions moved, because this is, right, it's a forecast. There's no decisions been made on this. So this is what it would look like if those positions were moved over to the general fund from the expansion fund. A 1% annual contingency, which is slightly low, but there's something in there. Again, no above base expansions, potential legislative impacts, public health transfer increase through fiscal year 28. Again, this is a forecast, so these decisions haven't been made, but we're trying to be realistic. The CIP transfer increase through fiscal year 30 to try to get that transfer into alignment with what we know the ongoing funding should be to maintain our infrastructure. And the indigent fund transfer increase, that's a 4.5% per year mandated by statute that we have to fund. So again, Subject to change, updated as additional information is available, but we can see that it's a consistent use of fund balance. That's where the structural, deficit, how that reflects, and into the potential outer years of the forecast of the unrestricted, unassigned ending fund balance. This is a different way to look at it. So we can see that we have sources and uses, and it's kind of small, but we can see, right, that they're out of balance, right? So this is a different chart representation of the graph prior to that. I was doing some stuff this morning, and when we look at the property tax actuals, like our revenue from 2008 through 2024, and then compare those actuals to the CPI, that revenue has not increased at the same rate as CPI, close. It's about a 0.52% deficit, if you will, like we would have been 0.52%. When we look at the CPIU Western, which in some cases is more reflective of us, and in other cases it's not, right? Sometimes it depends. Then that lag is what I'm going to call it. It's about 2.69%. So I did not have time to do that same analysis for CTAX. I can, but I was just curious this morning of what does that look like when we look at CPI and we look at all of these changes. So that takes us pre-recession, through the recession, and then back. That's why those dates were chosen. So when we talk about position changes, there is detail in attachment A. This talks the position control numbers, what we call them, the PCN numbers, the 7 numbers. So within the judicial category, it's actually going to be a net reduction of 0.78 FTE. This is reorganization by that court administrator working with the judge and the chief judge based on some their interpreter needs. How can they manage things differently? How can they reschedule? And so they're really just looking internally and okay, how can we try to make this happen? On the right-hand side, we're talking about reclasses, evaluation, title changes. So there are, of this 73, 40 of those are title-only changes, and that's all in the attachment, but the majority of those are seasonal positions, right? So we're changing the title. There's no pay grade change. We're changing the title. There's 35 of those, which are the seasonals. There's 1 in HR, and there are 3 in the public defender, 1 in the all public defender, and those are reflected on the right. The rest of those are reclassifications. Not all of them are upward, and then these also reflect, as identified in attachment 1, the contingent or pending reclassifications. The other thing I want to highlight here, and I'm not leaving anybody out on purpose, I just know that these are things, is Community Services has also, like Sparks Justice Court, come up with a way to reallocate, not add additional positions, but be able to, I would say, I don't know if it's established, but our hydrant management program for CSD. So they were able to reallocate, shift things around. This is going to go here, this is going to go here. It ends up being less expensive for the roads fund in the long term. It ends up being no additional expense in the general fund, and we're able to, I'll say, add additional services, or I'm not sure of a better way to say that. Assistant County Manager Solero might have a better way, but it's something that we needed to address, but we knew we were limited from resources. So those are just 2 highlights of things, just this go-around, that we've gotten or worked with departments. So when we look at transfers out, these are in how large they are. So these are in denomination value. And the 26 amount and the 25 amount are next to each other because sometimes if you just give the amount, it's out of context. What does that mean? Is that more or less than last year? So we see that increase to the indigent fund. That is per that statutory requirement I mentioned earlier. We have, it's actually flat or slightly reduced for the homelessness fund. Capital improvement is increase. Of course, that was the recommendation, and that would be the recommendation in future years as well. The increase for the Health District, Northern Nevada Public Health. The roads fund, we had some quite a few conversations on that, so that's reflected that increase on here. Debt service, you'll see that that is a reduction of transfer. That's a natural occurrence of our debt service schedules. So as our debt service or amortization and our debt service schedules change, then we're not going to transfer more than we need to. So that's a fairly significant reduction. Then we have senior services flat. We had to transfer some for the CAD RMS. This is the new hexagon. So this is computer-aided dispatch records management system. So there's a little bit of general fund support required there. And then the total is the $85.76 million compared to the $78.36 million. Other funds. So when we talk about other funds, recommended net new position or net new FTEs, it's actually a reduction. These are in departments, but these were, well, Human Services was in a restricted or a special revenue fund already, but the sheriff and the district attorney, those were, even though they're in their department, they were grant funded. Particularly for district attorney, those are the 6 ARPA positions that are not filled, and they've found different creative ways to get that work done. Mm-hmm. And then within the sheriff, those are grant-funded positions that, and they're vacant, so we're not kicking people out of positions. These are vacant, but without the alternative funding, they're being delimited, abolished, however you want to phrase that. Then with the recommended reclassifications, evaluations, title changes, there are no only title changes. These are all reclassifications, and again, we're working with the departments regardless of the fund for sustainability and finding the offsets if it happens to be an increase. There'll be more detail in the next presentation, but high level, these are our CIP appropriations. So we have capital funds, so that's Capital Improvement Fund, that's our largest. The Parks Capital, as well as Capital Facilities Fund. Again, I think I've mentioned it, but I'll mention again that we're changing the way we're approaching the budget process just to make it more accurate. So there will be what we call carry forward or reappropriation. That's not reflected here. I think when I checked, it's about potential $83 million of carry forward reappropriation for these funds on the left-hand side of the slide. The right-hand of the slide, we have those capital budgets for those other funds as well. And those numbers do not match what's in item 12 because it's capital expenditures versus capital projects. Mm-hmm. So it just is a reminder or information. The adopted budget, they are legally approved appropriations, and as we've discussed, there are certain things that we can do to change that, but not a lot, and they're all conditional. It's the financial plan and operations guide. So the next step is to submit this budget to the state, and then also coming to this board. So one will be item 12, and then these 2 other items are separate, our debt management policy and our statement of indebtedness. Those come to the Board of County Commissioners, and then they get forwarded to the Department of Taxation and the Debt Management Commission. So those are kind of next steps after this item and after item number 12. There's supplemental information. I don't know if you want me to go through those slides real quick. We don't have to, but I think it's good information, especially for people that don't deal with like governmental budgeting all the time.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Cook. I will open it up to board members' questions or comments. Commissioner Garcia, I'll go to you first. Do you have any questions or comments?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Andriola.
I just want to thank everyone for the process. It's taken a little bit of a twist and turn in terms of just seeing where it was from a beginning proposed budget to where we're at now. And I really appreciate all of the recommendations and the time that you've spent, certainly with me and I'm sure other commissioners, to try and ensure that we are doing everything we can to live within our means I also really appreciate the detail that you've provided, specifically, in fact, on the slide that you're sharing, for instance, from 2008 up through 2000 or projected 2026, that the services in terms of FTEs started, essentially you're serving more people with less. But at the same time, there were additional costs that have been incurred, and we've all seen what that does. So being able to have a flat budget, looking at contingency in terms of ensuring that everyone, and I think Ms. Cook, you used many examples of, for instance, how are you doing more with less, and looking at implementing efficiencies, looking at technology and leveraging, how you look at things. So I think it's great for FY26, and I think moving forward, I would like to offer comments in terms of moving forward and what that might look like, but to stay on task, I'm going to stay in this lane right now. I'm sure, Madam Chair, you'd appreciate me staying in this lane right now. But I do have comments in moving forward. But again, I think it's really important that even looking at what I think is, and I mentioned this before, the very core of what makes our country and who we are, and having the public defender, those positions have been ongoing, and knowing that they're secured for 5 years with the ARPA interest creates a constitutional balance for representation for everyone in our community. So to have a responsibility of that is huge, in my opinion. You can't have one side of the judicial representation and not have it equally on the other side. And I think looking at that ARPA interest and the fact that we looked at this in a very prudent way and maximizing what we can with those dollars and creating equity for those that have to go through the judicial system, I think is very responsible. Looking how after 5 years and what that looks like, I'll save that for another time. We'll get through this. It's really hard not to do that, just so you know, Madam Chair. I really want to go to another place that isn't, I think, appropriate at this very, very moment. I really think it's important to let everyone know that it is really a hard time for everyone, and I think everyone has to start thinking, and Ms. Cook, you stated that. You have to start thinking about how you do things differently, and I think everyone needs to think about that. Just because you've been doing it one way doesn't mean that that's going to work moving forward. And so I think that there are opportunities to start thinking now. 2026, again, all the work that you've done, the interest, the savings, the ARPA, putting those really essential positions for the public defenders is important. Not having it be a hiring freeze, keeping things net zero, and those reclassifications not just being put in, and now you have increased labor costs, which is always the highest of any organization, not just the government entity or Washoe County. Labor is always the highest of any business cost. So kudos to you all for sharpening your pencil, not imposing any additional taxes on our taxpayers, and trying to keep everything as flat as possible, which gives us a great position in moving forward. So I'm trying to stay in the lane, but again, thank you for all your hard work, because the patience that you've all had, at least speaking from me, is to be commended. Because coming in with what the original recommendations and where we're at now, as I just said, is really a testament to not only you listening, but looking at how it can be fiscally responsible. And so I appreciate all of your hard work, and even the team of people that aren't here, right? There's more than just the folks that are here, and I think that needs to be extended to all of their hard work. To the staff that work diligently on trying to putting something together with unknowns and having the state, go through what they're going through and updating their technology and not giving all the jurisdictions what information is really critical, but still holding to you have to get your budget in on time. So I'm really eager to have you, Ms. Cook, provide us with what that analysis looks like so that and I'm sure you're eager to have the time to look at that analysis. So thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate the in-depth presentation again, taking the time to meet with everybody prior and the full transparency of what we're doing today. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Andriola. Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a few comments, as you might suspect. I'd like to go back to slide, I think it's number 19. Can we go back to that? That one. And I'm looking at the projected deficits, and I'll have to go upside down here and looking at 2026, 2.4 million, and then moving across that line, 17.9, 28.5, 32.9, 38.5. Those are the projected deficits in those future years based on what we have with us now.
Correct.
Okay, so that is shows us going down a path that nobody would want to go down. That's some serious deficits in the future projected. And so I want people to focus on that, because the way we start fixing those future deficits is today. And we start looking at things, and when you find yourself in a hole, you quit digging. I've mentioned it before, and I'm going to mention it again. We have got, this county has more money than they've ever had in the history of the county since 1861. Based on what the treasurer's told me, the assessor, we've got more properties, new properties coming on. I want everybody to ponder this. When a new property comes on, and you can all attest to this in your neighborhoods, there's construction just about everywhere. Those properties come on the tax rolls at 100% of what the land is worth and 100% of what the new construction is worth. So that is serious money. The treasurer tells us that he's invested money in different places and is making more money than the county's ever made before, ever. We've got gas taxes, some of the highest gas taxes in the state, if not the nation. Gas taxes are designed to fix roads, and we still have a deficit there. We've got some of the highest sales tax in this county, in the state. And we've got just boatloads of COVID money came in over the last few years, and yet we're still broke. How does that happen? I asked that same question to the county manager, who's not here today, and he pondered for a moment, and he said, because we're spending more than we're taking in. He passed the test. He got an A on the quiz. That was the quiz. If you spend more than you take in, that's where you get to where we are. Adding up these numbers, it looks like we're all going to be over $100 million shy of where we need to be over the next few years. How do we fix that problem? This morning we had somebody come in at the fire board meeting, and it was just one reclassification. And that person, that particular position, was going to get an extra $15,000 a year from the fire board. That was an 18% pay raise. Then when we factor in the behind the scenes, the cost of hiring that employee was another $8,000. So one person could have potentially cost the county $23,200. Multiply that by the 4,000 folks we have. That's the problem. 80% of our budget is payroll. 80%. Close to it. Maybe 79 point whatever. Let's call it 90 or 80, just to be fair. And we can't talk about that. Think about that as a personal issue. What if your budget, your family budget, your business budget, what if you spent 80% of your budget on hotel rooms? What if you spent 80% of your budget on fuel? What if you spent 80% of your budget on entertainment? What if it was gambling? Whatever. 80% of every dollar you have is already allocated. How do you fix that? We need to have everything on the table here. And everything means everything on the table if we're going to have a serious discussion about budgets. I've got an uncle in Southern California. He's in his late 90s. He was a fireman for 30 years. Got a check from the fire department, city of county, LA County, for 30 years. He's been retired for 45 years. He's in the hospital, his medical and his retirement for 45 years. We need to think about that every time we hire anybody at the county. We don't have the actual area tables, or we don't know who's going to live, how long they're going to live. We have to look at the long term before we continue to do this. We've got Bob Conrad has just written a great story, and This is Reno, and I urge everybody to read it. It's a 6-part story about budgets, and the city of Reno, the city of Sparks, the county, they're all mentioned in there. We're all in the same boat. The school board's in trouble, the fire board's in trouble, the city of Reno's in trouble, Sparks is in trouble, and the county's in trouble. And yet we have higher property values than we've ever had. People want to blame it on the property taxes. This 3% cap is only for owner-occupied properties. Probably the number is hovering around 60% or less are owner-occupied single-family residents, but everybody else is coming in at 8% every year. Every year, hotels, casinos, strip malls, restaurants, gas stations, department stores, all of that stuff is coming in at a higher rate. We've got lots of money. We're just not spending it properly. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to admit it, but that's the fact of life. And so we need to take a good hard look at what's taking place here. Property values are increasing. I just heard a report, the average sales price around here is $565,000. 5 years ago, it was probably half of that. So and we're not a valued property tax that way, but if the average price is $565,000, that means the builders are certainly not building them for less than that. They're building brand new houses that are coming on the tax rolls full pop. So there's other things that have happened in the community that are affecting things. We don't have the air races anymore. That used to bring in a lot of money. Street vibrations, a shadow of what we used to be. So as we lose these events, when people come to town and they're not spending money, and out-of-towners are not staying in hotel rooms, and they're not buying food and services and entertainment, that's a problem. We need to be looking at the whole picture here, and just passing a budget, just to pass a budget, is not making any sense when we can't talk about the biggest part of the budget. Again, it's out of balance when we have 80% of our budget tied up in one particular category, one particular column. The private sector doesn't have these kind of retirement benefits. They don't have these kind of benefits that we get here at the county, and we need to look at and find a better way how to manage our funds. And it's just unfortunate that we have to be in this position. I'm sorry we are. Thank you.
Commissioner Clark, so are you saying you're not going to vote to approve the budget today? Are you offering any suggestions, or where are you going?
Well, I don't think we can tax our way out of this. I think William Mantle wrote an excellent op-ed that was in the paper not that long ago, explaining how these taxes that we're proposing, sales tax increases, other vehicle registration, all of these are regressive taxes. They hurt the working poor more than they hurt anybody else. And so, yeah, I think that we need to be looking at other ways to economize around here. Maybe we need to do what we're proposing to do with the library board and have an efficiency expert come in and audit certain departments and see if there's ways to economize. I think that's a prudent thing to do. Have experts come in.
That's the county manager's job, and we can certainly task him to do that.
Sure. Very well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. This is a public hearing, so we will open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk.
First up to speak is Alan Munson, followed by Trista Gomez.
Hi, my name is Alan Munson, a resident of Washoe County, and I appreciate, first of all, that discussion or that presentation, and but I do want to speak as a citizen of Washoe County, as a retired person. I have a son and daughter-in-law who both are working in Washoe County, and my overall urging is to watch the deficit and watch the expenditures. Now I am not an expert on budgets today, and I just in the last night and then today a little bit just got some information. But it's one thing that strikes me is our county manager makes $300,000 plus for a salary, and then gets another $100,000, and that to me is too much, and that might be so that might go into personal salaries, and I think as Commissioner Clark said that the salaries are 80% of it, and we are in a time where a lot of people are struggling financially, and then to increase and raise their taxes is going to hurt them. I think of my son and daughter-in-law, they will hurt them. And as a retired person, I just have to kind of watch back, pull back. I would look at, and I'm just giving random things, but I would look at the CARES campus, and that's 21 million. I heard 21,680,000, and then raising it, a couple $100,000. But I've heard people explain to me that program is not an efficiently operated program. Now I know that can be disputed, but that's to increase that program doesn't make sense. And so looking at our salaries and looking at some of the programs, I just hope that you would think about that and be very careful. I appreciate the job you do, but I'm just a regular old citizen here, and I just hope that you would hold back so that we don't get overburdened. We're already struggling enough, so thank you very much for hearing what I have to say and for what you do.
Thank you.
Trista Gomez, followed by Fred Myers.
Trista Gomez, for the record. So many things, gosh, I just don't know where to start. So one thing, I know that the county manager is responsible for all of this, but I also know that the Board of Commissioners is responsible for the county manager. And the county manager, as he was implementing, I looked at the slide 20, and slide 20 had that graph, and it showed our revenues, and it showed our costs, and it showed where we were above, and we had more revenue and less cost, and then it showed that whittle away, and then our cost increase along with our revenue, and now we don't have enough money to have a budget. We don't have enough money to stay within our budget. Thank you, Mr. Clark, for talking about the deficits, because I looked at that and I thought, I wonder if that's really the deficit. It's really the deficit. I was a social worker. I'm not a social worker anymore, and I could talk to the woman who also worked for HHS about her issues over there. And I have a lot of friends that are social workers, or, they're in PERS. A lot of people. I know a lot of people. And sometimes they complain to me about the amount of money that they don't make, or the amount of money that they don't. And you know what I say? I say, we own a business. I haven't had a raise. My husband hasn't had a raise in his business in 5 years. 5 years. We don't get guaranteed taxpayer benefits. We don't get guaranteed taxpayer retirement for the life of the time that we're retired. I have friends right now that are retiring. They're 49 years old. They're 53 years old. They're going to live for 30 years. They live on retirement salaries better than I will live. I live on a non-retirement salary, working all the time, a couple of jobs sometimes. So this discrepancy, it was okay, right? It's okay, you kind of understand it. Then it becomes an injustice. Then that deficit starts to become an injustice. And that's what we're looking at now. It's true that personnel costs are a high portion of any company. I agree with that. But you know what other companies are doing? They're looking at ways to figure out if they can automate. They're looking at ways, just like these guys are talking about, different efficiencies. But what they're not doing is they're not giving a raise that their company cannot pay for, because they don't get to just draw money out of the sky. And we don't get those guaranteed PERS retirements, and we don't get those guaranteed benefits. And when I hear my friends, that some of them do not like me anymore because I keep talking about PERS, when I keep talking about that, and I say, we don't get these benefits that you get, we don't have them, and it's starting to look pretty off balance and a little bit unjust. And I think Mike Clark is right. We have to look at salaries and PERS. We have to. There's no other way.
Fred Meyer, followed by George Lee.
Fred Meyer, for the record. I'm a little late to the game on this. Just got back to town here recently, but I couldn't agree more with Mike, Mr. Clark. We need to do something. We cannot smile and pass this along and say, oh, we've all done a great job. We haven't done a great job. We're doing a terrible job, is what we're doing, and a disservice to myself and the folks behind me in this town that we live in, Washoe Valley. I sit here and I know it's a tough job, but that's what y'all are getting paid to do. And so was the lady who came up here to speak and give us all that that information that wasn't very pleasant to have to listen to, really. We need to do something different. I know you all heard the term Doge and you're sick of it, but that's what the rest of the country is doing. And we need to tighten our belt. We need to make the changes that we need to make so we don't continue on this trajectory. This trajectory is like our nation, no different, right? We all can agree with that. You can't argue. Is a death sentence for us financially. We need to cut. So the library, for instance, the library was told basically by the voters that no, you cannot have the extra money that comes from that tax that was, you all know the tax I'm talking about. Well, now they're trying to work ways around it and get the money so they can keep the employees. No. We spoke. We expect our vote to be honored in the things we vote for. We don't want that to be moved to the side and just give them, keep the employees. Get rid of some employees. And fortunately, Jeff Scott's gone. Thank you to all the people that got him out. And we need to change the culture in that library also. And, culling some of the workforce might help do that and change the complexion of it, you might say. But thank you, Mike. Appreciate you stepping up and speaking some truth to this situation.
George Lee.
George Lee, for the record. I agree that the warning flags of hurricane are upon us. Somebody should be out there waving those flags, because you can't buy your way out of it. You can't just go, well, we'll just hit on these people, we'll hit on those people, we'll take it from here, we'll raise prices for everything. In California, I used to live in California 40 years ago, and California had a real problem 40 years ago. And the problem was They had the university system. They had, like Davis. There are people who are still retired from Davis from 40 years ago. And that is what has driven, their retirement programs are what has driven California, among other things, of course, has driven their economic system into the dumper. And the fact that their state is failing, you can only go, our state is beautiful for so long before people start to recognize a problem. I have a question that I know you guys aren't in a position to answer, but because of this venue, but all these buildings that are going up in North Valleys, at Audi and what's it called? Audi and El Rancho. There's a bunch of 3-story buildings there. And there's 3-story buildings all through Spanish Springs and up. I mean, it's like somebody threw seeds out there and they're just, And now, if those are condominiums, are they charged the 3% for when somebody buys it, or are they charged 8%? That's a clever way of getting around the tax. And I don't know how that works because I live near 395 at North McCarran, and there's a bunch of these places that are 3 and 4 stories high that were sold as condominiums. And I don't know what the taxing structure is for that, and that was my question. But you need to do something to cut costs. If 80% of your cost structure is employment, then you need to think harder on that. Now, nobody likes to be at the back end of a kiosk, but maybe that's what it's going to take.
There's nobody else signed in.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Clark?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I need to get this on the record as well. This is something that this board has inherited. We've got 3 members on this board that have been here just a little over 2 years. I mean, we've had to inherit this. This is something that was like a train that couldn't be stopped way before today. So we need to make sure that we're doing something in the future so future commissioners don't have to be in this kind of a position. I know I looked at those numbers that were deficit numbers and I quickly added them up, and as of right now, unless something changes, that number is $117 million, 117.8, so almost $118 million going forward. If we don't do something about it, the commissioners are going to be here long after we're gone, long after we're termed out, are going to be having to deal with this. And the citizens, long after we're termed out, are going to have to deal with this. We need to start doing something proactively to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen in the future. You just can't, everybody looks like an adult in the room here. You just can't spend more than you take
Great.
In.
We understand your position, Commissioner Clark.
Again,
what would you
why?
like to do today?
Well, let's have a vote on the budget. That's what. Let's have a vote. But I want to get some things on the record, please.
I think we hear the
Please
theme
stop
that you do not want
interrupting me.
We hear your theme. I think
No. I need to get some things on. I want it on the record so in the future when somebody 5 years from now says, how come this county is so upside down? Didn't anybody say something about it? I'm going to say I said something about it. And we're also going to see, we're all going to see that you didn't want me to say something about it. Thank you.
All right. Any other commissioner comments? All right, we've taken public comment. I am happy to make the motion. I move to adopt and certify the final budget for fiscal year 26 pursuant to NRS as outlined in the staff report and approve the changes outlined in the staff report. I am looking for a second. Commissioner
I'll second,
Andrew-
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Garcia, thank you very much. Any questions on the motion from the board? I'm not seeing any. And Madam Clerk, can you do a roll call vote since Commissioner Garcia is on the phone?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Chair Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
No.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Andriola?
No taxes, no increase, flat, yes.
All right. And Madam Clerk, with that, do we have a budget that has passed?
We do. If you see your screen, it's
All
yes,
right.
3s, 1 no.
Thank you. And Commissioner Clark chose not to participate in our budget and find solutions today. So thank you very much. We'll now move into our final piece of our public hearing, which is item 12. And Mr. Solero.
Yes, item number 12 is a discussion and possible action on the county manager's recommended capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2026 through 2030, and direct the county manager to submit the CIP to the state of Nevada and others by August 1st, 2025, as required by NRS 354.5945. And Ms. Cook is going to start this one off again.
Thank you very much. Welcome back.
It's technically still morning, so good morning. For the record, Lori Cook, Washoe County Budget Manager. Just to, and I'll make sure that DDA, Large, and the clerk are on board. This is a follow-up. This is not a public hearing, so this is just a normal action item.
Okay.
But it has to follow
Thank
the
you.
public hearing, so that way we're doing what we need to do. We are required by statute to submit a 5-year CIP. Again, our budget's approved in 1-year increments, so the outer years are not approved from a budgetary perspective, but it's a plan. So we're required to submit it to the state. Our capital projects are estimated costs of $100,000 or more in a lifespan of greater than a year. Purchases, construction, improvement, replacement of land, buildings, and equipment are mostly what we see. Technology systems, those could be new or upgraded systems, as well as maintenance of current physical assets. The capital process, or the capital request process, parallels the budget process, the annual budget process of the operating. Departments submit requests to the CIP committee, and I think it's on the CIP committee, has the 2 assistant county managers, the CFO, the CIO, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Information Officer, the Director of Community Services Department, and Budget Manager. So it's a committee. There are criteria, and so within those criteria, it's assessment of need, strategic planning goals, project life cycle, implications of project deferral, so those things that are high risk or have material risk if we don't do them, economic impact, and environmental impact. So we have the same theme as in prior years where departments didn't submit individual CIP requests. We have a lot of pending projects. A lot of those are ARPA funded. We need to get through our obligation and our spend deadlines so that those funds don't go back, that we maximize those funds to the extent possible. But we do look at requests related to technology and infrastructure, and sometimes departments will work with community services on those infrastructure requests. So when we look at the 5-year plan, it's over $367 million. Again, we don't have that in the budget. We can't adopt future year budgets. The focus, again, also, when we look at where we are and where we stand, we go back to the infrastructure scorecard, My understanding is that this is now ongoing and gets updated at the end of every fiscal year. So we can see between fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24 that there are overall grades that went up and a couple that went down. So we saw road pavement, stormwater decrease while equipment, services, or fleets increase. Parks, facilities, sewer collection, recycled water, and sewer treatment remain the same. The baseline, and this is likely we're going to need to look at this to see if there have been any escalations, but around $18 million a year, a general fund transfer to those infrastructure projects. That's just infrastructure. If we pull technology services and some other areas in there, that's the 18 million grows, if you will, but we don't have as long of a plan related to technology replacement or technology infrastructure outer years. So this 18 million is kind of like the low end, if you will. And so the goal, and that's what the forecast from the previous item reflected, is to increase the general fund transfer so that we can get to that baseline, so that we're not, the last I heard, and somebody can correct me, over $1 billion of assets, right? So buildings and, just assets. And we don't want to see those, including roads, right? So we don't want to see those assets decline. So, here's the list for the CIP committee. See, I just had to go to the next slide. So the 2 assistant county managers, the CFO, the CIO, the comptroller, I forgot Kathy, okay, be mad at me, the comptroller, budget manager, and community services director. So they go in, we discuss, we have meetings throughout the year, so we talk about projects that are ongoing, what are we looking at. Stuff comes up with projects I'm sure you're probably at least personally familiar with. You never know what you're going to get when you start digging into a wall, especially when you talk about older facilities. You don't always know what's behind there. And so we do have ongoing meetings and discuss, kind of what's going on, what's the landscape, what are we seeing. And we have seen, and it shouldn't be a surprise, but we have seen pretty significant cost escalations over the recent past related to both labor and materials. And we're kind of like everybody else, where we don't know what's happening, depending on what's happening at a federal level, how that flows through and impacts potential pricing, especially local pricing. So when we look at these are the new projects, or new recommended projects rather. So this budget authority, when we look at this, is what is included with the prior item 11. We like to highlight the new projects as much as possible. So we have registrar of voters, ADA project. This is per settlement agreement that the board approved. This is just the first of multiple ADA projects that we expect to come through CIP. We have the 1 South Sierra 75 Court Street fire alarm system modernization. A lot of work going up at the detention facility, so that's 911 PAR for anybody that might not know that address. Obviously, there's some parks projects on here. Another large one we see is the ERP planning and upgrade. There had been funding earmarked, if you will, from prior years for that. That is our SAP system, and so right now it handles all of our general ledger or financial activities as well as HR. So it's a big initiative. SAP for us was rolled out officially in late 2000, calendar year 2003. So obviously over 20 years old. Some different technology projects funded with some one-time monies, the P25 radios. The existing projects carry over, that is right from prior years that didn't finish. We need to carry them forward. Undesignated budget, that is in the, those are by function, so by functional projects. And a good example is we have an estimate, it's a project that's $290,000. We actually go out to bid, we get the bid, now it's $325,000. Do we not do it? So we have to be able to have some leeway and some flexibility. Now those, when they're outside of the parameters of either the budget or the scope, right? So if the scope grew for whatever reason, those come back to the CIP committee. So this is just a pie chart of the CIP. You can see that other projects is a large portion, but we've got technology, facilities, voters, we've got some parks projects. And so this obviously goes through or delineates in a way how all of the funding, that $33 million, is carved out. And just as a note, again, that $33 million we expect with reappropriations will increase. Within parks, these are new. So we have the Lazy Fi Regional Park Master Plan update as well as undesignated budget within parks. And this is funded with residential construction tax, RCT, bonds and grants. So this fund, generally speaking, there's nothing in this fund that is getting general fund support. There could be parks projects in the other fund, this list. But when we talk about parks fund, that's residential construction tax, bonds or grants that's used for those projects. Sorry about that. We have utilities fund. So we have obviously the South Dragon Meadows Water Reclamation Facility. That project is ongoing. We have the Steamboat Lift Station improvements and just various projects. Those are the large ones. And for the, just as a reminder, This is an enterprise fund. The utilities enterprise fund is funded with ratepayers, so whether it's connection fees or actual ratepayers, as well as bonds. And so the Stumwharf expansion and the PVI, or Pleasant Valley Interceptor, we have SRF, so state revolving fund loans for those through the state, and so we get below market rate interest basically, and the state issues us the bonds, and then we pay them back the debt service. And so those tend to be really win-win for everybody because the state has funds they need to allocate, and then they use the repayments to keep the program going. So it's a very interesting process and can fund a lot of good work within the water projects, utilities. Roads, obviously had a lot of conversation about roads. We have the recommended projects. We have the ongoing for the slurry seal. And so for 26, we don't have the individual roads, but I believe they have them within the community services staff. But we've got Cold Springs, Incline Village, Sun Valley, Pleasant Valley, and Gerlach. So those are the areas that are scheduled for slurry seal go for fiscal year 26. And then within equipment services, that's our fleet management. So we have heavy and light fleet of the $5.7 million within that. And some of those pictures just reflect roads equipment is usually big and expensive. It's probably not the technical terms. And then, we have to look at public safety, share of fleet, replacement. We look at mileage. And those are some of the things we've done over the years to try to extend the life of those vehicles, and so that we're trying to save money, but we don't want to spend more on maintenance than what replacing the vehicle could get us from perspective of whether it's gas mileage or operation and maintenance, doing more oil changes or it's breaking down more, so there has to be that balance. But those are looked at, and the equipment services fund, the equipment services supervisor, I'm not quite sure, Dave Gonzalez works with us on that pretty closely. The capital facilities tax, this is a 5-cent property tax, so it's an ad valorem rate. Over 72% gets passed, what we call pass-through or pass-back. So 60%, so when we look at a total revenue in this fund of approximately $12.1 million, we have 7.3 or 7.25 going back to the state highway fund. Then we have this other 1.36 million going to the cities, so that's Reno and Sparks, that's them together. And then we transfer to the roads fund because it's capital, we're transferred for the roads for capital projects in nature. So this doesn't have a lot of activity going on in it. It's, passing through for those requirements per statute. So when we look at long-term, and I do have it. So the 5-year plan, it's separated out by fund. So it starts with we call it the CIP fund, right? But so it identifies all the funds. So there's an overview, and then starting on page 2, it gets into the specific projects. They're all outlined, or they're titled. They don't have like all of the underlying detail, but they all have their titles. When we look at that, there are items on here, but there are things that we have on the plan or that the board has identified as important from an infrastructure perspective that include these items that are up here, right? So we're talking about IT infrastructure and systems replacement. So we are able to start on that a little bit next year with the ERP. The North Areas Library is still on there. Judicial District Court building or downtown. Senior facilities, detention facility, infirmary, crime lab, as well as regional parks, trails, and open space expansion. So we don't have final decisions on those items above necessarily. Only year 1 is funded. Some of these I would beg to venture we're not going to be able to get there unless we do some kind of debt finance or figure out some kind of financing agreement of some sort to get those projects going. The last time that I checked the figures, it was well over $400 million outstanding in those items.
Well, additional revenues, really.
Yes.
Alternative for debt financing, because there's no way to debt finance.
Yes, that is a potential depending on the source, if it can be pledged for debt, yes. So it depends on what that source of revenue is.
Yep.
So rather than kind of belabor all of these points into all of the different pages, but if you're interested, when I talk about reappropriation, The bottom of page 5 of attachment A, which is the 5-year plan, shows anticipated 83.9 million. And then that's the capital fund. And then within the parks fund, 4.14. So anticipate those balances or those budgets going up due to the reappropriation. That was it.
Great, thank you so much. Commissioner Garcia, do you have any questions on the CIP?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Andriola?
I don't have a question, but I do think it would be helpful if we could just clarify why we're doing this. And so I'm going to ask the DA if he would mind talking about why we're actually doing this, because it's not actually increasing any money here, and I just think it's important for everyone to know.
As Ms. Cook, Madam Chair, Michael Large, District Attorney's Office for the record. As Ms. Cook pointed out early on in her presentation, the capital improvement plan is required by NRS 354-5945. Each local government shall file a copy of the CIP with the state that incorporates not only our current year has to match what's in our budget, but we also have to have the 5-year forecasting. That's required by a state statute. So this is a matter of form that we have to do it by August 1st of each year. That's why this project went right after budget.
Thank you.
Yep, it's connected to the budget. So, Commissioner Clark.
I have no questions.
Okay. Looking for public comment, Madam Clerk.
There is nobody signed in.
Okay. With that, for ease, I am happy to make the motion. I move to adopt the county manager's recommended CIP capital improvement plan for fiscal year 26 through 30 and direct the manager to submit to the state as outlined in the staff report. Looking for a second.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Andriola got right before you, Commissioner Garcia. So we have a motion and a second. And Madam Clerk, can we please have a roll call vote?
Certainly. Chair Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Andriola?
Yes.
Results are on the screen.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously, even though Commissioner Clark did not pass or approve the budget, he approved the CIP.
You just
All right,
have to get that in
inconsistent.
there, don't you? You just can't help yourself. You just can't help yourself.
Just have to
You
point out
gotta
the
slap every chance you get. Keep
all right.
it coming, because I can take anything you can
Great.
dish out.
I'm glad. All right, now we're going to move to our block vote. While we still have Commissioner Garcia, it is recommended that we block vote items 8 and 9. I will make a motion. I'm looking for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Andriola. So we have a block vote for 8 and 9. And Madam Clerk, is there any public comment on those items?
There is not.
Okay. Is there any commissioner comments before we take the vote? I'm not seeing any. All right. May I have a roll call vote, Madam Clerk?
Sure, just one sec. Okay, Chair Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Andriola?
Yes.
All right. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And we will take a 10-minute break, bathroom break for the board, and come back at 12:20. Thank you very much for everyone's patience. Okay, I will bring this Board of County Commissioners meeting back to order. It's 12:20. We'll move into our presentations, and I look to Mr. Solero to help us with 5A1.
All right, item 5A1 is a presentation by Ryan Gustafson, your Director of Washoe County Human Services Agency, and he's going to be providing a general overview of the department, including program, staffing, and data. Mr. Gustafson.
Welcome.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being patient with the order of today's agenda.
No worries. No worries. So for the record, Ryan Gustafson, I am the Director of Washoe County Human Services Agency. I'm very happy to be here today. It has been a long time since we have given a presentation on HSA and what we do as an organization, and we're doing some new things, and so. But one thing I wanted to say as I get started is I've been in Washoe County for a very long time. I got my bachelor's here. I got my master's degree here. I've had the opportunity to work for the school district, the university, private practice, private hospitals, the state, and the county. And I can say I'm very humbled and honored to be able to work under the leadership of both the manager's office and the county commission. Just working through difficult budgets and things we had done at the state certainly as well. And it's just a privilege to be able to stand up here and present what we do as an agency to this commission. So with that, if I can get the clicker to work, we make up 472 staff now in Washoe County Human Services Agency. I think the last time that this board received a presentation, we were probably closer to 372 staff. So we've had some significant jumps, which mirror really the needs of the community and the population growth in this community as well. And we are all very proud to be able to say that we serve as best we can those most in need in this county, the populations that are the most vulnerable. And so with that, we cover the whole age spectrum. So we have a very large children's services division, a adult services division, a housing homelessness services division, as well as our seniors. So we have, we cover the spectrum. We have, counting myself, there's 6 of us who are in director positions over various programs. Just to give you a brief overview of what we do, the children's services side is all things that one might think of when you think of children's services, starting with investigations, intake, all the way to kids who are aging out of the system, and kids who are being adopted, and kids that are shifting into adulthood. So that whole, the whole spectrum. And then we have a lot of services that we bake in between to try to keep kids from staying in our system for an extended period of time. And I'm just going to show you a few statistics. We have a very large data book that if you've not seen, I'm happy to share, because I could spend 10 minutes on any one of these topics, and your time is more valuable than that, so I'm going to whip through them. But some of the data pieces I have are tied to data that is mandated by the feds and mandated by the state. So it's some of our most crucial data. So just some quick snapshot data. We have a very robust intake team that takes, as you can see, we took 6,029 calls last year. Those call numbers have been fairly consistent. You can see they've bounced around a little bit over the last 5 years, but we take several thousand calls, and those are calls that are specific to reports from the community of abuse or neglect of one variation or another, and those come in several different variations. School district is the #1 referral source for us, followed by law enforcement, followed by hospitals, and then the rest rounds out the rest of the community that makes the reports. Unfortunately, but occasionally, sometimes reports that come in and investigations we do result in us needing to remove kids, hopefully for a very short period of time. And so you can see we were at 331 last year. That was a little bump up from the year before, but we're still, if you trend line that out, we're still lower, which is good, which is, again, some of the things that we have to report out to the state. The idea is to remove as few kids as you can, but you can't remove kids without having measures in place. And so we've done a ton of evidence-based practice implementation to be able to keep kids in home when we can, but as you can see, we cannot do that 100% of the time. Total kids in foster care, we've now for 3 years sat at about 600 kids who are in our legal care right now. That has ebbed and flowed. When I came to the county in 2017, we were actually over 1,000. So we have done a good job of getting kids back home, A, and B, being able to safety plan and put provisions in place to not have to remove kids, because there's a lot of data that speaks to the trauma that removing kids from their homes has on them long term. So we try not to do that, but occasionally we do. This was a first in the nation thing, so I do have to brag on it just a little bit, in that we set up a visitation center back in October of 2017. And we have been visited by many states now to try to replicate this program. There's a lot of data that says the more families can see their kids and visit with their kids in a home-like setting, the faster that they can get home and the more engaged the parent will be. So we do several hundred visits a month. We sort of average out at about 600 of those a month as well. COVID threw us for a little bit of a loop, but we're back on track. Reunifications, you can see that number's down, but that also plays into the removal number as well. So the less kids you remove, the less to send home. But that's also a big number that the feds look for, the Children's Bureau and the state as well. Those are our adoption numbers. We were backlogged several years ago, and we were able to clear that out. And then we had a little COVID issue, which closed down some of the courts for a while. So that has kept our adoption numbers down a little bit, but we're working on getting back on track for that as well. Clinical services, another thing I would want to brag on, and also where 20 of the new staff have come from within the agency, and that we took over the State Mobile Crisis Response Program July of last year. Since we've had that program, we have approximately tripled the amount of kids and families that we've seen compared to what was being done at the state. So that has been a very successful program. I think that was actually 18 staff that came with the funding that the state is committed to covering year over year. Shifting over to adult services, we have our Crossroads program, our adult group care program, burial cremation. Again, this ties into senior services as well. And this also ties into a program that we will be opening up very shortly. We'll be doing a ribbon cutting this Friday. That will be tied to the new Crossroads family program. So that's going to be very exciting for us. And we have some numbers here. Real quickly, you can see clients served between the men's program, women's program, women and children's program, and then, of course, we're starting up our families program very shortly. Month over month for FY24, we will get the 25 data out as soon as we get to the end of the fiscal year. Senior services, have to brag on for a moment. The leadership team at Senior Services, we had a fantastic grand opening last week of the Senior Center and ribbon cutting for OnMed, and we've gotten quite literally 99.9% just fantastic feedback from our seniors. We had a very large turnout for breakfast there, so that's really exciting for us to be able to hit that population as well and to be able to serve them. So as you know, we do homemaker services, rep payee, nutrition services, nutrition at a number of sites, centers, multiple places in town here. Our goal is to get seniors out, to get them active, have them socialize, and just have them involved in our community. And just a quick snapshot of meals so folks can understand the kind of numbers that we do from a meal perspective. 435,000 meals. There was a little COVID blip there too where we saw a big jump up in in-home meals that shifted back, has slowly shifted back down to a nice split between some congregate meals. Still a lot more are being delivered at home, but you can see the numbers starting to bump back up in our congregate sites, which we're very excited about. And then finally, Housing and Homeless Services, which integrated into Washoe County Human Services Agency about a year and a half ago. So that makes up the other 70-ish staff that create our new total now as well. And we have our Continuum of Care, our Built for Zero program and project, and then our programs that we have in place, including the CARES Campus, Our Place, and our outreach teams, among some other ancillary supports and services like tenancy support. So you can see here our nights on average for shelter nights at the CARES Campus. You can see the same here for the Safe Camp. And then you can see this for the Our Place program. And again, a shout out to that leadership team as well. We are getting close to opening our permanent supportive housing building, which is in its final touches. That building's going to be fantastic and offer us some additional programs as well. And with that, my timer just hit.
You can talk about tenancy support. I think that's important.
Yeah, so you can see that we got to 59 total clients served in 2024. We're obviously going to be monitoring that. What we obviously
and that was a grant, right?
Yeah. And what we want to do is obviously be able to get people housed. We want to be able to get opportunities in place for these folks, and we want to be able to create sustainability because we don't want people to stay in our programs, Our Place, CARES Campus for long periods of time. We want to get them resourced. We want to get case management in place, and we want to get them shifted out, get them into a community, get them employed, get services in place, and be able to keep them there. And oftentimes that can require things such as tenancy support, can require mental health supports, can require various subsidies, working with other entities in the community that we have that, and we, quite honestly, we have fantastic community partners. Washoe County is a great size in that, and I've heard this from a number of people in that we're small enough to where you can get all the people in the room that you need to have in the room to make very important decisions, but we're big enough to affect some significant change for 500,000 people. So again, it's something that I'm just very proud to be a small part of. And again, we could talk at length about any of these topics, but I had 10 minutes, and so I'm happy to answer questions. And then, of course, I got the crack team sitting over here to answer all the questions I won't be able to answer.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for the presentation, respecting the 10 minutes. That's great. Commissioner Garcia is not on the phone anymore, so I'm going to go to Commissioner Andriola. Do you have any questions?
Thanks for the presentation. It's really amazing in terms of your point about small enough to get everybody in the room, but large enough to serve 500,000 people. And so I think moving forward, it's going to be interesting as you, in terms of being the head of HSA, look at how you can even do more with less. So maybe those same people that are in the room can also help contribute to how we can do more. But I think it's really the unsung heroes that aren't here and all of your staff that are in the trenches every day, and I can't even imagine the impact they have too. When you're dealing with vulnerable populations, there's an emotional impact. We're all human, and so I think that's a factor. I don't think that this is, I'll use the term, a job, because it really is an avocation. You know, you have to, I think, believe in what you're doing, and I think that shows, and I think the team that you have really should be commended. So the numbers, I think especially the numbers in terms of, the foster care, for instance, and not having to be removing of a home, which, changed several years ago, and that being the very first course of action and the impact on that as well. So what a wide scope of people that you serve. but I think the tie there is the vulnerability that they have and the uniqueness they have in each instant. So thanks for the numbers, and we wish that they would continue to keep, like going down. And I think some of the proactive, I guess that's what I'd ask as a question is, I know that each one of these categories are various different target folks, but I'm wondering when you're talking about some of the proactive measures, if you can maybe highlight some of those, if that's okay, Madam Chair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, again, for the record, Brian Gustafson. We all know that housing is a need here, and what we've seen is that, once you start drilling down into what that need looks like, you can start looking at not just community-based housing needs, but you can look at housing needs for those that need ongoing assistance. And again, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to get permanent supportive housing in place, right? That we can actually have more hands-on, that we can have more involvement, so we can keep people in place and keep them safe and keep them moving in the right direction. So from the housing and homeless services side, that's an example. From the other adult side, I can say, again, as we're getting ready to start a new Crossroads program, we feel like being able to do some work with families. It's been on and off, that need, for a while, but what we have heard is, how do families fit in? We have a mom's program and a mothers and children's program and a men's program, but what happens when you have a family unit, and how does that look? So we feel like that's going to serve perhaps a small, but certainly not unimportant, a very vital niche in our community. We're also about to rehab the women's program as well, so we're doing a ton of work on the buildings, much like we just did on the senior center, to get that in place. Again, I had mentioned our mobile crisis response. That was a program that we had started when I was still at the state in 2014, and the goal is hospital diversion, right? We all know that we closed down one of the 2 psychiatric hospitals that we have in town in 2021. We didn't. It was closed down, the West Hills Hospital. So a couple of things happening with that. As you know, we bought that hospital, the county has, and so our goal is to get that renovated and get mental health services in place. But secondarily is we don't want kids in mental health crises to be sitting in primary care hospital emergency rooms, because sitting in a bed is not treatment. Oftentimes it just delays, ongoing issues. And so the mobile crisis response, we worked with the state to take that program over in Washoe, because we sort of have a unique knowledge of the variables, the needs, the relationships with the school district and other places that make a lot of these referrals versus the state. And that has just been a absolute tremendous success. Our hospital diversion rate is 96%. So of the kids and families that we see, we're able to keep 96% of them from being hospitalized and keep them in their home. We do intensive clinical work as well. So that's been, from the children's side, a big success for us as well. And so we continue to look for evidence-based practices. We will work with any jurisdiction or state that is doing things that is on the cutting edge. For better or worse, a lot of jurisdictions actually look to us for that, for sort of the cutting edge things that we do when it comes to federal funding, how to maximize reimbursement. We've certainly done that as well. But again, sort of to brag on the county and the agency, in my 14 years at the state, we would run at about a 20 to 30% vacancy rate because you're right, this is hard work when you're doing welfare and mental health and these sorts of things. And our agency sits at about a 2.9% vacancy rate. And so people, they're passionate about what they do. And I think that's a testament to the county leadership. Not speaking for myself. I'm speaking for myself, but not about me. I'm talking about the leadership with the commission as well as the manager's office.
And Madam Chair, as a follow-up, I think it would be also really helpful to look at what those success models are. We're looking at numbers that obviously have clients served, but and I know that to a certain extent, measuring success, depending on how you look at that, may be different. But I do think, for instance, So just in terms of foster, whether it's the reunification and that child is now stable and moving on to a healthy future, or adoption, that maybe, I also think some of the families that you're speaking to, or the folks that are at the CARES campus, and what that looks like in terms of these really leading innovative methods that you're being looked at even from other jurisdictions and other organizations, and what that success looks like. I think that would also be something, you know what they are, but I think having that and sharing that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I certainly think the variables to look at and sort of the measurables, various recidivism rates. I think that was one of the advantages of merging together with HHS. Is the last thing that I would want to see is one of the kiddos from HSA aging out and then falling into the HHS system. We've been on the forefront of extended foster care, which looks like it's going to pass at the legislature, so that's going to create some additional efficiencies with the program we can do around that. But your point is well taken, in that I think it's important to look at the different measurables. And a lot of that becomes longitudinal, right, over time, see, like, when do you retouch the system in any way, and if so, what?
Yes, and I understand that there's some complexity, but I do think it would be really helpful, because you have outcomes that you're looking for, and there are outcomes that are actually even, legally driven that you have to report. But I do think that would be a very important component to add and share with us. And everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No comment.
Okay. Well, we really appreciate you and your team, and you are all helpers and really doing tough work for parts of our community that are overlooked, that and really giving people a second chance. And I have heard so many incredible success stories from the work of you and your team, from the work that you're doing with the foster and adoptions, to the senior services, to the homeless services program. I just commend you, and keep up the good work, and we just want to see how we can continue to support you. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to now move into item 5B1. Mr. Solero.
All right, item 5B1 is a presentation on the reduction of treatment to prevent mosquitoes for the 2025 season by Dr. Chad Kingsley, the District Health Officer for Northern Nevada Public Health.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. Thank you, Chair and board members. Dr. Chad Kingsley for the record. Just coming to update the board on the 2025 season for mosquito abatement. So one of the largest, as we were reviewing our budgets and focusing to help to reduce expenditures and analyzing what is mandated and what is essential, one of our largest expenditures that does not impact staffing was the large-scale mosquito abatement. And so in conjunction with the research on it and then taking it to the District Board of Health, we've moved to suspend the large area treatment for our 2025 season, which is May to September. We will continue our surveillance and our hand and drone treatment. So we're not stopping the services. We just identified this one service, which is our helicopter. It requires what we've learned about our areas require 4 flights a year. If we do 3 or 2, it's not effective. So we got 4. But what we've also analyzed in our budget, looking at the fiscal year 25, our current helicopter contract was $46,000, and then the chemicals, the larvicide that we use is $235,000. What we've looked at over the budget the last few years, and what we're also facing, is that our larvicides have increased since 2021 from 12. They've increased starting at 12.5% up to this year 17.8%. Then our helicopters increased over since 2021, almost at 20%. And so we have the same budget with that. So even if we were to continue with this course, and depending on these will most likely be impacted due to tariffs, we maybe have 1 more year, 2 more years before we wouldn't even be able to do the 4 flights. So it's a good time for us to be able to look forward and how, if our community wants this service, how are we going to sustain this? But we can continue with the staffing that we have. And on those points, and making a data-informed decision. So looking at the last 5 years, we had one locally acquired disease due to vector-borne illness, and that was a West Nile neuroinvasive in 2023. We did have other diseases that are transmitted by mosquitoes, but those were individuals that had traveled outside of Washoe. And those included dengue fever, 10 cases, and malaria, 2 cases. And currently, right now, there are different species of mosquitoes. The mosquito that transmits or carries the dengue as well as malaria does not exist, is not currently here in Washoe County. So looking at that one case compared to our other essential services that we provide, this was our lowest impact that we could see with our budget. What will remain, if large area abatement is reduced, we will continue our surveillance. And I'll touch on that in just a little bit. We will continue specific and targeted treatment will continue. Any complaints and requests for service are available and will be responded to by Northern Nevada Public Health staff. And other vector-borne issues will still be investigated and addressed, such as rabies or our recent hantavirus case that was reported last week. So all our other vector-borne issues as well will continue. Surveillance, so this is our past year. We're looking at this, and this information is available on our website. And as our years progress, we continue to document. So that, again, this year, any reports coming in, we see those areas that are targeted, and this is where they're reported and where we found mosquitoes populations at in the past years, but this is an example of it. So part of our surveillance program, on average per month, we do about 150 to 230 mosquito pools. So what we do with that, that's going out. We have traps. They have a little fan in them with carbon dioxide that attract. We do that 24 hours. We bring those back. We weigh it. We identify the different species, and then we send it to the state lab that does testing for the different viruses that are transmitted through those mosquitoes. Then also, while our staff is out in the field, they always dip into the water and search for those for the larvae of mosquitoes to identify they are, and if they're able to, then they treat with larvicide. I'm here to help coordinate with jurisdictional authorities. I'm also meeting with Sparks as well as Reno. So definitely contact us and our staff if you have constituents contacting you, but we'd also like you to direct them to 311. When they report through 311, we get an address, we get contact information. We're able to collect that data on top of the surveillance that we do. And then we also will follow up and asking them what time of day. A lot of our mosquitoes are dusk and dawn, and they're either risk or ankle biters. And then we'll also provide any education that we can to those members when needed to. Staff responses may include up to additional information, resources available, as well as additional on-site investigation may occur, so we know where we need to go to investigate and see. Education also to help abate mosquitoes, as well as to prevent bites, and then any additional treatment from staff that we can. So what's going to continue on, what we're doing right now, even though we don't have the helicopters, is we're continuing with media and community outreach. We've already released and informed the community how to plan and prepare. So we're prepared for press releases as well as to work with any community partners. We have our social media outreach and partner with our jurisdictional partners on this. So how to prevent mosquito bites: eliminate all standing water around your home, reduce lighting around your home during dawn and dusk. And so yellow lights tend to attract fewer insects, but you will need to check with your HOA if you have an HOA on installing those type of lights. And then consider outdoor repellent products. And then personal protection, long sleeve or long pants, approved over-the-counter insect repellent, and especially at dusk and dawn. And then identify any flu-like symptoms. And so if you are presenting with flu-like symptoms during a non-flu-like season, please go to your medical provider to be able to say, hey, I'm not feeling well. And so they can run any tests, and I have noticed mosquito bites. And again, our team is available to help providing information to the community through 311 or follow-up calls. And overall, any questions?
Thank you so much. I appreciate you giving this update. I had a quick question about the transfer we just approved in our budget for next fiscal year, and kind of the analysis that the health district, I know under the leadership of Commissioner Andriola, who's the vice chair of the board, just to see where having a second set of eyes look at the budget in your budget, because there was some confusion on, what is ARPA funded, and what are the ongoing expenses, true ongoing expenses that we need to account for, because we certainly don't want to see further cuts in the health district. So what will that look like moving forward?
Yeah, as part of our budget, and this is a reflection of this is an essential service, not mandated. So we are taking precautionary steps to prepare for if we're looking 50% of our budget is pass-through money from the federal government, and we're looking at possible significant cuts with those.
Okay.
That is to HIV, to obesity, to public health preparedness. It's pretty broad where it's possibly cuts at, and that means staff, challenges there and stuff. And so we're working towards that, identifying what are those non-essential services. This was directly from local funds on it, so it's one of those things identified where we can help cut back. And as we continue to work with the county, what we're doing with the budget, we do present our budget monthly to the District Board of Health, but we're also in cooperation with the county, working with them. And we're going to do a third-party assessment of our budget and have that come back for both of us to be able to look at it and where we can shore up and strengthen those services provided, especially those mandated services to our community, and really get our budget aligned that is better balanced as well as resilient for those services that are necessary for our community. So that has already begun. We've identified a third party, and we'll continue to work with our county partners for that. So
great, thank you for that, and looking forward to hearing those outcomes, and just keep the Board of County Commissioners abreast of if you need additional support. Commissioner Andriella.
Thank you. So I will share that the board did have a lot of questions when this came up, and I really think it's was very clear to the board that in supporting this recommendation, because it's not that it's going away in terms of not addressing the mosquito situation, and I think that's really important, and Dr. Kinsley highlighted that in the presentation. So it's not that there is no, something is being entirely cut for this, but everyone is looking at, what can be paused as we enter into this uncertainty, especially, as Dr. Kingsley said, with a lot of unknown with federal funding. And so I just wanted to assure, in terms of just supporting Dr. Kinsley and his statement, it wasn't taken lightly. It was a very robust discussion. And I think one of the things, at least that we all walked away, and I hope we do as a board, is when there are inquiries, what do we do with those? And I think your point about 311, and also the messaging that it is not just going away. There's still a plan in place, and if funding is available at some time, it'll be looked at that time. But I think some of the detail that Dr. Kinsley provided hopefully will support what the board unanimously had recommended. And so it was tough, to be honest with you. It was a tough decision. But I do want to thank and really recognize the team, too, that is going to be out there doing this, and again, doing more with less, and realizing that this treatment is not going to be in place, which puts a lot of onus on the folks that are in the field and addressing any of these issues that do come up. So I think that needs to be recognized as well. So thank you.
And a lot on the community to make sure that they don't have open bodies of water, and that they're, kind of monitoring these things as well.
Yeah, and I think to your point, one of the recommendations by the board, and I list the questions, and Dr. Kinsley was very aware of this community outreach piece that he went over. So we want to make sure that the community is aware as well. It is a responsibility on everybody here, to your point. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Dr. Kingsley, for your report. I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, we appreciate your time and looking forward to future updates, and appreciate hearing about other ways that the county can support your efforts.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, we are now moving to donations, and since Commissioner Garcia is not here, I'm going to do a poor attempt of reading those into the record for the board. For 6A1, 6A2, and 6A3, there is a recommendation to accept $2,797.83 for Washoe County Human Services Agency CPS fund. There is a recommendation to accept $6,476 from multiple donors for support of the CARES Campus, Our Place, and Crossroads program, and $1,084 to accept for the Human Services Agency's Senior Services Fund, and it just shows how many community members really believe in these programs. So that is in the form of a motion. Looking for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Andriola. And Madam Clerk, is there any public comment on those three items?
There is none.
Thank you so much. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We are now going to move on to our consent items. Does staff have any changes to the consent calendar?
No changes.
Okay. Do commissioners have any questions or want to pull any consent items? I'm not seeing any that do, so I am looking for a motion on consent, please.
Madam Chair, I'll move to accept 7.A1.1 through 7.F.1.
Thank you, Commissioner Andriola. I will second that. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment on consent?
There's none.
Okay, thank you. With a motion and a second, any questions on that motion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. And that motion passes unanimously, although Commissioner Garcia is not here.
It says 4 because it's a unanimous in the system.
Oh, okay, no worries. Thank you so much. We are done with consent. I'm hopping all over this agenda here. We're now moving into item 10. Mr. Solero.
Item number 10 is your legislative update, and I just have a few things from Ms. Matievich, who is still busy down in Carson City as we start to wind down the remaining 2 weeks of the 17-week legislative session. Just a reminder for everybody, there have been 1,181 bills and resolutions introduced to date, and Washoe County is still tracking 527 of those. We've completed 237 fiscal notes to date as well. Now, coming up on Friday, the 22nd, is the second House passage deadline. So hopefully some of those 527 will disappear off this list. We will see what happens down there. Just a couple quick items of note. SB 319, which is the fire consolidation study, that passed out of Assembly Government Affairs on Thursday, May 15th, and it's on the general file in Assembly awaiting a House vote. And AB 333, which you'll recall on May 11th, the board adopted a position to support the bill, which is the Washoe County Fairgrounds lease amendment. That passed out of Senate Government Affairs on Friday, May 16th, and reported out of committee on May 19th, and is awaiting a second reading in the Senate. So that's where we're currently at with items of note this week. And given there's a deadline coming up, I'm sure Ms. Matievich will have a report for us next week as well. So,
thank you. That's a great summary. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment on this item?
There's none.
Okay, I'm looking to board comments or questions. I'm not seeing any. Well, thank you for that, and we'll continue to keep our ear to the ground as we're going through the session. So we'll now move into our final public comment. Mr. Solero.
item number 13 is our final public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda.
Okay, Madam Clerk, is there any final public comment?
Nobody signed in.
Okay. We now will move into item 14, our final commissioner and county manager announcements. Mr. Solero.
Yes, item number 14 is commissioners, county managers' announcements, reports, and updates to include boards and commission updates, requests for information or topics of future agendas. I just have one quick little item that I am I'm sure the manager, as well as my counterpart, Ms. Thomas, are eagerly awaiting discussions with all of you for next year's budget. Appreciate the work that you've all done on current fiscal year budget, or the upcoming fiscal year budget, as it may be. But we do have, as noted today, there's going to be some work going into the following fiscal year's budget. And so really appreciate the work that has begun with our other elected officials, as well as our department heads, in understanding kind of what your vision is going to be. So as we did mention to you during some of our notifications to you, and as well as on the last few board meetings, there will be many more budget meetings and discussions to come up, different than we've done in the past. So just want to make sure everybody was aware that that is an ongoing discussion. Want to make sure that the public understands that you all are taking this seriously, as well as county management. So that's all the comments I have today, since I had a chance with the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Slayer. Looking forward to those discussions. Commissioner Andriella, do you have anything?
I too am looking forward to those discussions, and welcome the opportunity to start sooner than later. I know it's not an agendized item, but I do think that there are opportunities, as you've mentioned. So I'd like to start as soon as possible. And I think at whatever the point is, that a plan is in place, that be agendized and discussed, so that for full transparency, everyone understands how we're moving forward, not only in 2027, but for future years, and our responsibility to approve the budgets and stay within the guidelines and be responsible and thinking differently about how we do things, I think will be a welcome opportunity. And so I too look forward to that process starting like right now, as quick as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark.
No further comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you everyone for a great meeting. We are adjourned. Have a great day.